All right. So today we have our first two-time guest on the podcast. We have Michael Narx, and today he's not only talking about Narcoleptic Customs, but his new channel, Drag Drive Repeat.
Yeah, man.
So, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about that and
Okay.
kind of how you got that started, the thought process behind it, all that good stuff.
Yeah, so it's really kind of interesting. So if you guys have been around for a while, which most of the folks that follow you probably, they probably inadvertently follow us too on Narcoleptic Customs. We began that channel just to document our shop build, the stuff we work on, the stuff we work on for customers, the builds and things like that within the shop. Um, and then I found Drag and Drive. If you haven't noticed, I love that lifestyle and doing the events and things like that. And if you don't know what drag and drive is, you can look it up. But essentially, it's 2-lane blacktop for the modern world. We drag race at one track, load the car up. You're completely self-contained, and then drive all of your stuff in your own car to the next track. So we do that for 4 or 5 days. Competed in several of them now, and I was co-pilot for the first one on Sick Week 2022, which we'll talk about in a minute. But so what was happening was I love podcasting. I love talking about stuff. I love telling stories. And so I was on the Narcoleptic page a lot with drag and drive content. And for 2022, I'm diving headfirst into the drag and drive world. Well, I felt, and this probably is selfish of me, but I felt that the Narcoleptic Customs people are there they want to see Stanley, which is our turbo LSc 10 truck that we've built. We've got the Narx cart, which is a death cart, Grand Marquis, and the adventures of those, plus Project Adam Ant, and all the stuff that we're building. A lot of those folks aren't necessarily drag and drive people. They want to watch the content of us building that stuff. So that's where Drag Drive Repeat came in. And it actually stemmed from because we host a charity drag and drive event already. And I was in conversations with Hyde, the guy that runs Midwest Drags and Autocross Week and 3 C10 national shows. And we were back and forth. And he's like, because I'm a nerd when it comes to statistics. And I love, between years, what have people done differently, and just the stories that go along with that. Well, through our conversations over about a week, we devised that there needs to be a fastest 100 list because I started gathering all of the participants of drag and drive events for 2021 and of course Sick Week 2022. And so in all of that, I felt bad to just inundate Narcoleptic Customs people with what is essentially 5 posts a day, basically, because there's so much content that we haven't even touched on that. And Hyde was nice enough to allow me a couple people to help, and we're going to build Drag Drive Repeat to be basically what the drag and drive world needs, which is more content, more information. There's just so many people that are even within the car community that don't know what a drag and drive event is. They've never attended one. They've heard about it in a magazine, but they don't know the ins and outs and things like that. So that's what Drag Drive Repeat's going to be. And I'm actually hosting. I'm a pit announcer is my official title with the production team for Midwest Drags and a C10 show coming up. So it's going to be kind of neat to lean into that side a little bit because really for probably the last, I'd say year, sorry, there's a plane flying over. In the last year, I've been posting like crazy for drag and drive content just because I knew it was out there and it was fun. It's fun stuff. I love those events and we attend them. So, anyways, so that's a short story long about Narcoleptic Customs and Drag Drive Repeat.
Yeah, I didn't know if you were telling people about the Midwest drag thing yet. So I actually didn't have that on my notes here. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. So that part of my stuff with Hyde and Midwest Drags came from the probably 40 or 50 interviews I did in the pits during Sick Week. So we were doing them as shorts on YouTube and TikTok and Instagram. So it was really good. And obviously it worked out well. It allows me to go to an event that I've never been to, and I've never been to any of those tracks and all that kind of stuff.
So you have Drag Drive Repeat on Instagram, YouTube, anywhere else?
Yeah. So Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and I'm building out a website. It is live. DragDriveRepeat.com is live, but there's just I needed somewhere I can store more I don't know, polished content, I guess would be the phrase. So I'm actually, I've never written blogs, I've never written articles, but I'm attempting it. And the second one will drop tomorrow on the page first, and then we'll share to all the social stuff, because they're a little more long format. It's kind of in depth on the car build and things like that. So
Yeah, I really like that. We obviously started building our own website a while
mm-hmm.
ago. It's not published, but I did like that idea. And I thought of it when we went to PRI that I wish the
Yeah,
page was ready, because I would like to do that blog style, kind of
yeah,
just put all my thoughts onto something and share it
yeah.
out. So, what Dan and I actually talked about is we are having somebody take over building our page because they want
Nice.
to practice. And we're like, hey, we've got a page semi started, so I'm
Yeah.
excited to see kind of how that goes here soon.
Well, and a lot of times it's good to have an outside set of eyes on stuff. And the one thing we're doing, so the fastest 100 list will actually live on drag-in-drive.com, draganddrive.com, because we're going to, Hyde's had that page for a long time. It's an easy central location for a lot of people. And so we'll have it live there. But actually, tomorrow we have our weekly phone call meeting, and we're adding the top 25 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14-second cars for 2022 will be out. So, because here's the crazy stat, and the top 100 for 2021 is a low 8-second pass, is a low 8-second average, not pass, 8-second average. So the 9 through 14-second guys were getting zero love if we just did the fastest 100. So obviously, a 10-second car, second largest class in all of drag and drive people that completed, and then 12-second being the number one. Those guys would have never gotten any love. We got to have, hey, listen, they push as hard as anybody, probably harder when you go to these events as far as index classes and things like that.
Absolutely. So one thing with the Narcoleptic page, that is primarily you and your brother running that, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
with the drag, drive, and repeat, you're doing something a little bit different with having kind of a few people help run this, right?
Yeah. And, we're always accepting people's submissions for, articles or blogs that they've written. Obviously, we're showcasing a ton of cars. We're starting with the first one, the fastest 100, and then we're just going to work our way. And that list will change after each event. And so we'll add new people. And then I'm going to start working on the remaining 1,034 cars and their placement as soon as I can get all that stuff kind of put together. So it's kind of wild. It definitely is going to give us an opportunity. Sick the Mag is amazing for their content, and I hate to call it a book, but it's 200 pages. Like, that's the largest magazine I've ever seen, and it's very, very high quality. So it's almost like a coffee table book. And so they do great with print. And so we're going to take a little bit of that life, let people write some blogs and put it more in a digital form. And then hopefully, if Sick the Mag is listening, we'd love to talk about some stuff centered around the end of the season for Drag and Drive and how we can help each other, mainly us help you because they're so much larger. What can we offer them that helps them push the magazine to more people? Because even today, the newest magazine sits on my counter and I'll read through a couple pages or something, set it down. You don't really do that with websites and social media. It's always about the newest. But, reading a magazine, which is exactly what Luke said when he was on the podcast with me, was, it's something you can hold. It's something you can go back to later and things like that.
Yeah, I think the whole idea behind your drag, drive, repeat is awesome. And I know even when you were starting to talk to us in the group chat about the idea of it, I'm like, this is actually pretty cool. And I understand kind of where you're coming from, wanting to take your Narc stuff to be separate, because now that I'm doing some of these type of interviews, I'm kind of having that same thought myself, do I keep them
Yep.
together? Do I make a separate 815 LSx Talk?
Hmm.
Kind of just trying to figure it out for event coverage, podcast, and
Yep.
then still wanting to do our own builds too. So,
Yep. Yeah. It's, you know, the crazy part is we try, you're always building a brand, right? So we built Narx Electric for 5 years, and the more I lean into this, the more I like it more and more, the more event coverage I can do. Like when I went to Sick Week, and I promise this will be the last story we'll tell, and then we're going to get into Sick Week stuff, I promise. When I went to Sick Week, it was just to get content. It was just to do videos. And so the entire time I'm there, I was actually posting to Narx Electric, all socials, Narx Electric, all socials, drag, drive, repeat. I mean, it was a full-time job all week long doing all of that. So
and not only that, you learned with your
yeah.
first 5 years with your Narcs page that now you can use some of that knowledge on this new
Mm-hmm.
page, and hopefully it'll grow even
Yep.
quicker. So when
Yep.
did you actually start the drag drive repeat page?
The end of January was
Okay.
our was when I started the first Instagram post, was the end of January. And we're going to cross 600 followers probably tomorrow, which is pretty cool. I mean, that's pretty neat,
Yeah, I mean, I'm only sitting at like 1,500 on my Instagram, so that's huge in just what,
Yep.
2 months?
But I will say this, we've posted more than 340 times to that in that amount of time. So having the team has been a huge help.
And I think that's almost as much as I've posted on my entire. I think I'm only at like 350 on
Yeah.
Instagram. So
Yeah. We're not scared. And again, it goes back to just the content that is available to people within the drag and drive community. Nobody is posting what we're posting. Nobody is telling the stories of these cars. And 1320 Video does a great job of gathering that content, but then after the event, they're on to the next event. So their stuff is event driven, where this could live. I mean, you got to think, for 2021, there were 1,134 cars that finished a drag and drive competition event. Okay. That's a 4-day minimum event. Okay. Now we have a lot of these shorter ones. Miles of Mayhem is 8th mile. Carolina Drag Cruise is 8th mile. One of the Rocky Mountain Race Week classes is 8th mile. So now we have all of that coverage that'll come this year too, plus a lot of these regional events like our event that's next month. And you've got the guy that's on with me later tonight, Jared Holt, it runs a Cruising Oklahoma King of the Open Road. Whew, say that 3 times fast. And then One Guy's Garage Drag Weekend. I mean, like all of those events are coming, and nobody covers that stuff in the detail that we will, telling times and car entries and who raced what. But, you think 1,134 people, that's a bunch. That's a bunch of people that you could get on and talk to about, for 10 or 15 minutes every time, And so how do we do that? And how do we get sponsors and things like that allow for the growth in that segment,
yeah, it's crazy the amount of people that you don't think about it, right? You don't think,
Yeah.
and you're only talking the ones that completed, not even the ones
Yeah.
that started.
Yeah.
So,
There's just under 1,400 that signed up, but didn't, like whatever the different 260 something that didn't finish a week. So, you start kind of doing the math on, I mean, while it sounds big, it's still very, very small. There's car shows that get 5,000 people. We're talking about 5 events across the country that won't have 1,500 people even enter,
yeah.
So it's exciting.
So with the channel, I see you've been doing a lot of quick cuts and these daily
Yeah.
dose posts. You
Yeah.
want to kind of talk about what each one of those are real quick?
Yeah. So the quick cut is from our long format stuff. Typically our live streams are 2 hours plus. You've been on a few of them. You know how it goes. We just get to rambling and talking and all the topics and things like that come along with this. And then so I take that and the fun stuff, like the one that I think released today or will release in the morning, will be like it leads with that Zach Bloom, who was on Sick Week with us. He was talking about how his girlfriend really doesn't like loud cars, and we're like, you need a different girlfriend, and all this kind of stuff. So it's a lot of times it's 6 to 15-minute cuts of those long format videos. Just for what I call poop time, you could jump in and watch one of those while you're taking care of business, or headed to work or whatever. So So that's quick cuts. And then the daily dose is your daily dose of drag and drive. So doodad is what I'm going to start calling it. And basically it is 10, 15-minute segments of news updates, event updates, informational stuff that I think is relevant to drag and drive coverage for people. Like the one I have written out for that I'll record actually between this one and the Jared Holt one is talking about, countdown on days for Midwest Drags, how many more cars they need, Rocky Mountain Race Week dates, and how the registration's coming up for 2.0 on March 25th. Just things like that. Talking about the articles that I read in Sick the Mag that I think people need to really look at. A lot of times, like the first magazine I took out, flipped through, put it back in the bag, and didn't touch it for 2 months. And so it's just trying to keep people involved and read the magazine and look at that kind of stuff and just get, I want you guys to live this life as crazy as I do. So
heck yeah.
Yep.
So sick week.
Yes.
So my first question is, how different was it from being a driver in your past events you've done to being a passenger for sick week?
Two things. That's kind of a twofold question. One, because we race in the mornings on sick week and we were racing at night on Rocky Mountain Race Week or Race Week 2.0. Racing in the morning is very hard. Dude, I'm going to tell you right now, just because a lot of times you're up the night before till 2:00 in the morning. Then you get up and you go right to the track and it's change the car over. The good thing for me about being a co-pilot on sick week was it allowed the content. It allowed me to get the pictures of people driving and the videos and talking to way more people. A lot of times if you're the driver, you end up in the lanes, and we were there for 2 or 3 hours. Well, while Justin stayed with the car, Justin Chestnut was the driver of the Model A, if anybody hadn't seen it. So he would be with the car because he's getting ready. He's getting in his own mind, things like that for the race. Well, I'm running around talking to people, and then, I would watch as he would come up the lanes. I would then jump in, like make sure all the car is set up, make sure the cameras are rolling, things like that. And then he'd make a pass. Well, I'd stay up there for another 15 or 20 minutes and then ease back to the pits. Well, you don't really get that as a driver. So for content creation, it was amazing. I will say I did not drive one single mile, which kind of surprised me a little bit, because I thought I would probably just jump in at some point and drive. But really, with the shorter drives of sick week, we would drive probably 50 or 60 miles between checkpoints. And so you're really only in the car an hour and 20, hour and 30 minutes. So you'd be outside for 10 or 15 talking to people. By day 3, that's your rhythm. You go to get back in the car and you get in the passenger seat and he gets in the driver's seat, and I turn the speaker on in the back and I run the radio and I run the directions and all that kind of stuff. So it was, I'll be a co-pilot a lot from here on out. I'm co-piloting with Steven in 2.0 for 2022. If I can make the time work, doing sick week, then doing Midwest Drags, then another one and a family vacation, it can get very, man, it's a sleight of hand moves around in there, around the family. So we'll see.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question is, are you going to be more of a driver going forward or a passenger? But
yeah, I'll definitely be a passenger. And the only reason being content creation, just because it allows me to tell so much more of the story than, like Steven's MG is a manual trans. And so you start shifting and doing that, and a cool car passes, you can't grab your camera and take a picture of it or a video, but as a passenger, you got time. You're just over there along for the ride. So
very cool. So for the actual event, what was your thoughts with this being the first sick week event? You've done Rocky Mountain Race Week before. Mm-hmm. How did sick week compare? How did it differentiate, and just overall kind of thoughts on the entire event?
Yeah, so sick week was really cool. The folks that run Hot Rod Drag Week were also in charge of sick week, which was a big plus. So everything was kind of run the same way. As far as like, what was very strange to me was how long it took in tech. I mean, we were in tech for 5.5 or 6 hours, which seemed very strange to me to be that long. Especially like once the drivers or once they started getting backed up, the actual tech guys were walking back, looking at cars ahead of time, and they'd put their little sticker on or whatever. And then, so what was taking the most time was the number decals for the windows. And that kind of surprised me a little bit that it would have taken that long to do that. But other than kind of that being a little longer and but it allowed me the chance to go talk to people, which is a huge plus. Other than that, I think it was really cool compared to race week in the sense that it was all new. It was all new tracks. It was all fresh. We didn't know where to go anywhere. We had never been to any of those tracks. Justin had never even, I don't think, been to Bradenton, and he lives like 20 minutes from it. So doing that, it was really good. But the differences would be, I love racing at night. It allows for more spectators. People could come watch, all that kind of stuff, in comparison to Sick Week, where we were racing in the morning. We would get up and get to the track and be ready by 9 or 9:30 and not get called to the lanes till 12. That makes for a long day. And then you're in the lanes 2 hours, you get one pass and you're out. And that's fine because it's a slow car. It's supposed to be pretty consistent. But, dude, we ran 14.6 the first day, 13.3 the second day, 14.1 the third day, and 13.1 the last day. I mean, it's all over the place.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
How was weather-wise? I know you had one day that was a rain day, right?
Yep. Yeah, it rained Tuesday. And the hard part is they probably could have raced, but it would have been a shortened window. And, I don't think the guys with the fast cars would have attempted passes just because of the potential. Probably because the humidity in the air was so thick. But we were at Orlando Speedway, which was really cool to be there, and all the history that track has. And then, so yeah, it rained one day, and it rained pretty much all day, which I think kind of set into motion our fuel issues. And then that got worse. And if we had been racing, it would have really made, we probably would have broke something if we had made passes that day, to be honest. As I'm sure, as lean as the car was getting, that's how we picked up, from 14.6 to 13.3, as we found a clogged fuel filter. Like, you couldn't even blow through the fuel filter. I know I've said that 50 times, but you could not. But we met the super cool guy, pulled into his road, saw that he had a shop, was going to use the street light to do a distributor change, and pulled up. Dogs come running out. He comes out. I'm like, hey, can we use the light off of your garage? Because it's a LED light. It'd be way brighter. And he's like, yeah, come on in, and just opens the garage up. And we used his tools and talked to him, and it was really cool. He's the one that actually figured out the fuel. We were still thinking electronics. So that was a big win.
Yeah. What's the chances of something like that happening? That's kind of wild.
Dude, and what's really crazy is the car would run great for about 4 to 8 miles, and then it would stumble. And then once it started stumbling, it was just a matter of it going downhill. And then we thought we had it fixed, put a new distributor in Publix parking lot, or put a cap and rotor and module and everything in the Publix parking lot, and drove 20-something miles. And it's, y'all, dark, dark. And we're cruising along, and it just goes, boom, 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 boom. And Justin was like, pull out the maps and find us a spot to pull over and change it. Well, about 4 miles down the road was some side roads that look like neighborhoods, So I thought, okay, well, there'll be some streetlights there. And so I was like, hey, man, pull in the second one, because that way there'll be more houses around us, thinking about that. And so he's like, well, let's use that street light, and pulls into that street. And turns out Rob and his wife Dina were that house at that street light. And I mean, if we'd pulled in another one, we'd have been in front of some dude driving a Honda Civic or something, and he wouldn't have known what to do. So it was really cool. The guy had a 67 or 69 fastback Mustang with a big block Ford in it, and a sniper kit, and all these cool cars. Like I think he had a Comet. His wife had a Volkswagen bus, like an old school 21 window bus that was all redone. So I did a video on it, kind of a walk around the shop, and had him explain to us and tell us all the story.
So how was being at the Freedom Factory?
Dude, it was really cool, but they've got to get some cell service, man.
Yeah.
It was pretty neat. The beer was cold, which was good. Beer was inexpensive, which was a plus. And man, it was really neat to be in the middle of that. Like we pull in. Justin's wife was driving I think she's got a Volkswagen, like Passat or something like that, or Jetta. She's gonna kill me for not knowing that because I called it a Hyundai one day, and it really, I'm an idiot, And so anyway, so we pull over the hill onto the track, and all the cool cars are lining the ring, and we pull down through, and we're kind of slowly going down the side, and this lady waves us down with a vest on, and she's like, "Hey, pull down onto the pad." And we're like, "Oh, okay, cool." And what do? We tear something up. She goes, "Oh no, it's just a cool ass car." And we're like, "Oh, what?" We get to park on the back of the cool cars. So like all the cool cars got to park down on the pad, which is pretty neat. So we were actually on the burnout pad where they've done all the dumb stuff. So that was really cool.
Anything surprise you about the place, or anything unique that you saw, or just kind of soaked it all in?
Yep, man, we just soaked it all in. It was really when you look at, because we drove around back, like where he parks all the Crown Vics. I mean, it's crazy when you see all of them lined up compared to when they're on the video. So we drove down that row and kind of down around up onto the track, and it was really cool. Like you could see I'm going to say history there, but the age on that spot. But then once you top the hill, I mean, it was all like brand new stuff. Like all the lights were great. The pad was way bigger than I thought it was. Like when you see it on, I mean, like it looks big, but it was huge. I mean, I think there had to be 100 cars on it pretty easy by the end of the night. So
Really?
it was pretty awesome to see all that, and then see everybody on the bank, on the bank turns and on the straightaways and stuff, and just how banked that was when we were walking around looking at cars and things like that. I mean, it's
So
a racetrack, I guess, circle track. I don't really do much circle track stuff, but it was pretty cool.
for sure. So you did a bunch of YouTube shorts while you were there and dropped them on Instagram and everywhere else. Um, you didn't drop videos, full videos every day, did you?
Nope, because I was too tired. I did
Okay.
I did day one, I did a full video, but I was up till almost 3 that morning, finishing it. And then we would get up at 6 and be gone. And with doing all of the stuff during the day and that at night, I just did not have the energy. So once I did a full video day 2, but it was just of Rob's tour of his place, just to get that out and say thanks to him for taking us in and getting us fixed and rolling, and then after that, really, I was just too tired. So I'm going to record a video after all of this tonight. That is the 5 things you don't know about drag and drive. And number 3 is you don't sleep, and it's okay to be tired because like your brain functions differently, because you're trying to see and do so much stuff while you're in the middle of all that you don't sleep, you don't eat, you don't drink enough water, you don't put sunscreen on, you just like a 3-year-old running around, you just don't care, you're just pushing as hard as you can. So yeah, by the time we would get to the hotel at 11 o'clock at night, I just didn't have it in me to edit and get the computer out. So every day I would clean the SD card, and I've got them all put up, but really I still only have till day 3 edited because the videos are so long. You know what it's like to edit a 30-minute video? It's 5 or 6 hours of editing, so
Yeah.
so between that and the quick cuts I'm cutting for live streams and things like that, it becomes very difficult.
Yeah. And we talked even before sick week, and we're like, yeah, I'm sure it's going to be hard, but we got to do it that way. And same
Yep.
thing when we went to Cletus and Cars, we're like, yeah, we're going to put a video out that night. Same thing happened to us. We went home and we crashed. So
yeah. I think when we went to Cletus and Cars, we were there like 20 minutes, and we were like, okay, go to bed.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And now that was one day versus you had what, 4 days?
Well, no, we went 5 days. So, and leading into that, I was supposed to fly in Friday. This is a fun story. I was supposed to fly in Friday. Well, Thursday, I see that flights start getting canceled, And I was off all day Friday. And so luckily, Tyler and Aaron with the Taco Time Fairmont let me ride with them. But that meant we were driving 20, I think it took us 26 hours. It wasn't quite 26 hours of driving, but by the time you stop at 2 or 3 Buc-ee's and you eat and you walk around for a few minutes, it took us a long time. But it was like 3 o'clock in the morning, 2:30, and we all got back in the truck. And I was telling my wife this the other day. I was like, we all got back in the truck, and nobody said anything. Like literally, for it had to be 8 or 10 minutes, and it was 2:30 in the morning, and Tyler had been driving, and Aaron goes, man, should we just get a hotel room or something? And we all just kind of sit there for a minute. I was like, to be honest, I was like, I'll sleep right here for the 2 or 3 hours that we're really going to sleep anyways. I'll sleep right here. And I was in the back seat. I was like, I'll lay out here. You guys can fold the seats back, and like, we can sleep for a couple of hours, at least get a nap. And we were all like, yeah, that'll work. Well, if people don't know, Buc-ee's, the parking lots are the brightest. You can see them from space, right? So we pull over to the side trying to get some darkness. And of course it didn't work. So we all we're back there, got t-shirts over our eyes. Everybody's trying to find a comfortable spot. And so I think Tyler got about 20 minutes of sleep. So Aaron jumped in the driver's seat and drove us on in after about 2.5 or 3 hours of sleep. So, I started the week with that. And then you just roll right into sick week. It was wild. So we didn't get there till Saturday. The event, we went to the track on Sunday. Well, Saturday was all get the car ready, see stuff, look at all of Justin's cool stuff, and kind of all of that. And it was wild. It was wild. So it was a good time.
So how were all the stops along the routes?
It was really cool. They really thought a lot about the in and out of so many cars, because you can't just pick a checkpoint, because you have to think there may be 100 cars in a grouping, not like in a convoy, but within an hour of each other, of the front guy and the last guy, there may 100 cars is not uncommon. And so you have to think about, how are these people getting in and out? Is it a cool stop? And all the stops were really neat. All the stops were really great for parking for 15 or 20 minutes and then getting out of the way. The one on A1A, which was really cool, is at Flagler Beach. And it was really neat just because it overlooked the ocean and all that kind of stuff. So lots of good photos from Chris Story Photo of that drive right along there. He was up on the parking area taking shots of people as they're driving past the beach. But it was rainy and gross and about 45 degrees. So nobody really stuck around very long at that one. And then obviously Don Garlett's coolest place in all of the trip. And then all the other stuff is just neat historical type stuff.
So did you guys didn't drive on the beach? I know a couple guys did though, right?
Yeah, we didn't, just because one, we were scared, and then two, we passed the so we were running along with Jason Schaefer, Reggie Moore, and Hot Rod Dave, and Scott Guthrie, and his co-pilot Bob. And those dudes move out, right? Well, we were at the back of the pack, and Justin's wife was behind us. So if we got stopped at a stoplight, it was catch up. A1A is a 2-lane. So it was like, how fast can we go to catch them? Well, that really limited us on A1A as far as pulling over. A lot of guys got the Daytona Beach kind of overlay there in their pictures, but I think flew past that thing like 50 something miles an hour. So, I mean, I was like, oh, there's the part where everybody's taking their pictures. And we just kept going because we were trying to catch them, because we didn't want to be leading for the first time in our entire trip, which didn't work at all. So
in the museum, how was that?
Dude, I wish I had spent a little more time, but we didn't get there till almost dark. And then, that was day 4. And really, you have to understand, your brain no longer functions at day 4. Day 3, it may a little bit. Day 4, no, not at all. And so I kind of walked around and all that kind of stuff. Sorry, I'm messaging to Jared Holt, 7 p.m. Central. Sorry. So what was really cool, if you've heard any of my stuff with other guests, the engine room was a favorite of everybody. But what I really enjoyed was all of the like the early Ford flathead performance parts that were still around. People, there was just one that was really cool. It sticks out in my mind, but it was a dual carb to single carb intake, adapter. It's just really neat to see kind of the progression of speed parts and how everybody made. I mean, a lot of that stuff was handmade, cast in some dude's sand pit out behind his house, and then hand ported and hand polished and all that kind of stuff. And roots blowers and, crank driven blowers were really cool, and all the cars. It was really neat. If there's ever a point where you are on a trip and that it can be a stop, you definitely need to make it.
So a buddy of mine, I guarantee, is going to listen to this, and he had a family vacation in Florida, and that was one of the places he wanted to go, and lost that battle to the family. So when you listen to this, you know who you are. You're gonna wish you would have went.
Yeah, I mean, and the reality is, you're a lot further from there than we are, but if you had a couple buddies, you could almost cannonball and get there and spend a day or two. And then, it's probably not a full day of stuff, but if you were with your friends and you're talking about cars and working your way through the museum slowly, to have the fun and enjoy the moment of being around other car guys, you could spend 4 or 5 hours there without a doubt. I mean, no question to ask, and probably more as you figure out, what, make your lap and then figure out what you want to go back and look at secondary. But they had everything. It was just really cool that people had kept all that stuff for all those years. I mean, it's 50 years or so, 60 years worth of racing. It's pretty neat.
Yeah. And then there was somebody sitting in a black pickup truck right by a sign there, wasn't there?
Dude, I could kick myself really, because we literally pulled up right in front of him. I mean, we took the picture right in front of him, and we just thought he was some security guard dude. I mean, like, I couldn't have picked him out from anybody, especially at that point, from anybody anywhere. He would have been, he was unknown to me at that point because we were moving so fast, trying to get in and get the shot and get out of the way for the line of 30 cars that were behind us that followed us in. So,
yeah, I think it was your picture with him in the background, and then that was after somebody had already pointed out that was him sitting in his truck.
Yep. I was like, no, I figured he would be around there somewhere. But again, I didn't know what he looked like nowadays and what he would be cruising around in or whatever. So it was really neat.
Right. That had to have been super cool for him to sit there and watch as well.
Oh man. And I'm sure they have cruises and car shows and stuff like that hosted there. But, I mean, well, there's 100 cars that were 10 seconds or faster that cruised Sick Week with us, that drove in there, and probably more at that point, because a lot of people broke their stuff on the last day and didn't even turn in a pass, or it wasn't fast enough to keep their average low enough to be in the top 100, Yeah. So you start thinking about all the really cool stuff that comes down. I mean, 6 and 7 second cars, and that guy started racing like 200 miles an hour was huge. I mean, these guys were driving, I mean, one pass, Stefan went, I think he went either 218 or 238. No, I think 238 was Bailey. So yeah, he went like 218 miles an hour on a car that he drove 800 miles. Like, those guys were racing that kind of speed back in the 70s and 80s in a full blown, top fuel, funny car dragster,
Right. And Sick Week kicked off with dual 6-second passes, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it was wild to see the amount of speed that was there. And so that's another point on the Daily Dose. Like, the fastest 100, Bailey's not on there, Schroeder's not on there, Alex Taylor's not on there. I mean, like, we see, like, I mean, for the 2021 list, it was an 8-second pass, or a 9.0 was the number 100. Is it going to be in the mid 850s now once we get all these guys into different events and things like that?
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah. And Drag Week's the last major drag and drive event for the year, unless somebody puts something together, after the middle of September.
Yeah. And with Sick Week, they can they can do something late in the year too because of the weather
Yeah.
that they have. So I know
Yep.
this one was early in the year, but
Yep.
even if they shifted it a couple months, they could be the last one as well.
Well, and what I hinted at a couple times on mine was why name it, Sick Week and then have the Florida on the bottom. It just allows you so many more options. You could do an early event in Florida and then do a late event, I don't know, Arizona, New Mexico, California, something like that. I mean, nobody would want to drive in Southern California traffic with these cars. But and what's funny is the 6 and 7 and 8 second cars are probably more suited to that kind of stuff than us 12, 13, 14 second cars, because a lot of times we're on the ragged edge to run a 1299, and uh, cooling capacity isn't necessarily our number one concern.
Right, right.
It's got a fan on it. Well, I mean, our fan was held on with baling wire because on our way to the track day one, two of the tabs snapped, and Justin had baling wired it tight, and it was on there the whole week, didn't move. So
That's
you
awesome.
wouldn't probably do that on something going 200.
Right. So what was your favorite track out of all the ones you had on Sick Week?
As far as like hype, South Georgia Motorsports Park, I think that was really cool. Their track and facilities were really neat. I really enjoyed Gainesville myself, just because a lot of it was all paved, which was really cool to be able to work on coming from Bradenton. Not that the gravel parking lot's bad, but it's easier to roll around on the dirt if you're or on the ground if you're going to have that. And then the just the stands at Gainesville were, I mean, you could tell like big events go on there, where the others were more, I didn't feel like Bradenton had enough stands if you had a big sellout crowd, which I'm completely 100% wrong, because they have as many people at Bradenton come as many people as Gainesville. But I did feel like Gainesville had, you drive, you do your burnout in front of like a huge tower. I mean, it's, not just a tower with a couple rooms. I mean, it's like offices and big glass windows and all this kind of cool stuff. So it presented itself really well.
Very cool. Um, who was your favorite person that you got to talk to?
So Biggin, who's Eric Yost, who owns Customs, Customs by Biggin, him and Stefan Gustafson, it was a really cool conversation. So I had done a 60-second spotlight on Stefan's car before the event started. And so in the tech lane, I went up and was like, hey, can you do a 60-second walk around of the car? And then after that, Stefan was talking to other people, doing other interviews, and us and Biggin were standing there, me and Justin and Biggin. And so we're just conversating, and they had 2 kegs in that trailer, which I didn't drink a single drop of that beer, which I should have. But him, talking to him, and then we, throughout the week when we would see each other, we'd conversate a little bit. So it was really cool to kind of hang out with him. He's a big part of Lyle Barnett's posse and team. They do all that stuff together. And so Lyle didn't make it. And so it was like the next best person, I mean, it's cool, that they hang out, and that he's just a super nice guy, and his knowledge is really deep. And then probably after that, and really there was so many people. Cody Walker and I hung out for a little bit, which he's a country music artist, which is pretty neat, like to see, like he's really a car guy that sings, if that makes sense.
Right.
And then all my buddies from 301 Streetcars, man, I love those guys. They were there in force. Joel Clark, Mike, and Mike Sleeper, and his wife Steven Sleeper. Not his wife's not Steven Sleeper. His wife's Ashley Sleeper, and then Hank and his son. And we had a good night. I guess that was probably the night at Gainesville. We walk into the hotel, and I'm telling you, it's midnight, and they're all sitting in the foyer of this hotel lobby room. I don't know what you'd call it. And they're kind of drinking, having fun. I mean, they're not wild or anything like that. And so I snuck in there. I dropped my bag on the floor, and we were going to check in. I just dropped my bag on the floor and went into the room. I was like, screw them. Hang out here with these guys for a little bit, had a couple beers. And that's another reason why that video didn't get edited that night. You spend 2 hours down there talking to people about cars and stuff, and you go to the room, it's 1, you're like, nah, Sorry, y'all. The
Right.
24 videos I put out today of shorts is going to have to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I assume with that many people and the profile of names that were there, I
Yeah.
mean, you got to talk to so many people. It's
Yeah.
it's just crazy, and it's a really cool experience to be able to see all those people and talk to them, especially for you with this
Yeah.
one. You were doing the content creation, so you were
Yeah.
able to go around and talk to so many different people. I can't even imagine how many
Yeah.
different people you talked to and interviewed and all that.
Well, and it was cool. Like, Parker had been on, and Parker Mitchell, and we had messaged a few times. And so I kept trying to get over to say hi to him, but that dude's busy. He's running a mid 8-second car. And talked to Doug Cook from Motion for a little bit, put a sticker on the Narx cart sticker on El Toro. That was kind of fun. That was at South Georgia Motorsports Park. And man, it was crazy to think back how many people that we talked to that, got selfies with, all the guys from Drag Illustrated, Wes Buck. That was probably, to be honest, that was probably the coolest dudes, Wes Buck and Mike Carpenter and JT Hudson. I really like those guys. I watch their show every week, or listen to it really a lot of times because it plays while I'm at work. And so I'll have it playing in my earbud while I'm working. But yeah, they run a 3-hour live stream, and really that's why I do 2 and 3 hour stuff now, is because I don't care, because I'm like, if they're doing it, man, we can hang out, we can have fun. It allows more and more people to come in and do that stuff.
Right. So speaking of stickers, you not only got one on El Toro, but you got one on Ruby as well.
Yeah, man, it was awesome. So I had been carrying that sticker for a couple, like 2 days in my pocket, right? And so Cletus is a hard man to nail down just because he's so busy. And if I had seen James, I probably would have asked him. But there was a moment at Garlett's where it was Cletus and like two other, I'm going to say fans. I don't know who they were. So I was close, and I kind of meandered my way over there, and I just held up the sticker, and I was like, "Hey man, can I throw this on the back of Ruby?" And he's like, "Yeah, that's fine. Just don't put it on a tail light." And I'm like, "Okay." And so, but it was the weirdest thing. Like he was like, "Oh shit, I've been found," and like took off. So it was pretty fun to be able to do that. I should have just snuck it on there, but I didn't feel like that was. I'd maybe get that taken off. It's pretty easy to locate the dude that has the Narx cart decal. So,
Right. Yeah. Hey, at least you got it on. That's
yeah.
cool.
Yep. So it'll be fun to see that, again, hopefully at 2.0, and hopefully they'll bring it to Midwest Drags and get some pictures and things like that with it. So,
Yeah. So how did the whole Midwest Drags pit announcer thing come about?
so in hosting the circuit drag and drive in April, Hyde, who runs Midwest Drags, but also dragandrive.com, had reached out to me because he has trademarked drag and drive as a term because of all of the attention it's getting. He did it a few years ago, but he reached out, "Hey, this is kind of how, he's like, I'll give you a pass." I mean, like he's given us the ability to use drag and drive, with the trademark drag and drive. And that was where the conversation started. And then, so obviously, if you're going to be a self promoter, you got to tell the dude that runs Midwest Drags that you also did a ton of content. And so just over us talking the next few days, and he's really the reason we pushed on the fastest 100. I told him, I'm like, and he knows it. He lives this life. Drag and drive is about to explode. Think about the coverage that's coming from these style of events now, and how big that will get in the next 2 years. And so I was telling him, I'm getting early. I'm going to do all this stuff. And he's like, "Well, if you're going to do all that stuff, and then I think he probably watched a couple shorts, and then it was like, "Hey, do you want to cover Midwest Drags?" I was like, "Man, I don't know if I can, just because I'd like to attend race week and family vacation and work and things like that." And he said, "Well, find out about that, and if you can, I'd love to have you carry a camera around and a microphone and talk to people and be a pit announcer." And I was like, "I'll get right back to you." So immediately text my boss. I was at home, talked to the wife. She's like, do it. Sounds like a great opportunity. And so messaging back, well, since then, I mean, it's grown dramatically in not just pit announce like that. That's the same deal. You know, it's the same little circle of Midwest Drags pit announcing and the C10 national stuff. It will go to, but now we're doing the fastest 100 list. We're doing top 25 lists of all the 9, 10, 14-second cars and just all the growth that will come out of that. So luckily, me hosting a Drag and Drive has helped me maybe become a bigger part of the Drag and Drive community. So it's exciting.
Yeah, I think that's super cool. And who knows, there's going to be, like you said, there's going to be a bunch more of these events popping up.
Yep.
It's getting more and more popular. And if you can keep your name out there,
yeah.
who
Well,
knows?
and the one thing about it is it really doesn't take much to put on a successful, however you want to word that, drag and drive event, right? So, you know, for us, 40 cars is successful, us raising $3,000 or $4,000 for a children's shelter, having fun for 2 or 3 days with people, and drag racing. And the other part of that is getting people's car out of their garage. You know, a lot of folks don't like to just beat on them. They like to go drive them, but they don't want to just do a cruise. They want that next level event. And that's what a drag and drive can give them.
Yeah, I've been talking about it for a couple years, and I
Yep.
really I need to just
Yeah, you
figure
do.
out which one I'm doing and then just do it, which car I'm taking, which event I'm doing, and just do it.
Yep. Yep.
Otherwise, I'm just
Well,
going to keep talking about it and it's not going to happen.
well, listen. So Jonathan Stonecipher, he had done like 4 or 5 of them and kept telling me, "Man, you'll love this. Man, you'll love this. You'll. This is your event. This is your event." And so I did 2.0 in 2020 because Drag Week canceled. I wasn't going to Drag Week, but I did it because it worked out for timing for me to take off work. And I mean, I'm hooked. Like I mean, I'll attend at least 2 major events, maybe 3. And then, you know, I'm hoping to do the King of the Open Road and our own event. I mean, that's 4 or 5 drag and drive events, you know, throughout this 2022 by itself.
Yeah. For me, for sure, if I don't actually participate in an event, I am definitely going to attend some of these events because
Yeah.
I'm like you. I really enjoy, for one, as a fan, I like going to these events.
Yep.
And with what we do on social media, YouTube, and all that, content coverage and event coverage is just it's great, and I love
Yeah.
taking pictures. I love recording videos. I enjoy all of that. So
Yep.
even if I don't actually do one of the events, which I want to, I think at least I need to do one of them.
Yeah.
But definitely going to go and record stuff and keep in the loop on the content creation for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, again, it just goes back to documentation. You know, that's why we all started. That's why I started recording stuff, was I wanted to document the journey of Narx Customs, and then here we are, 4 years later, 5 years later, and now we've got 2 full blown channels. Narx Customs has a little over 3,300 subscribers and gets 1,000 views a day, and that's always awesome. You know, and then we have Drag Drive Repeat over here, which is like 170 subscribers. So if you hadn't done it yet, subscribe to that channel. And 600 followers on Instagram. And it motivates me more than sadly the 3,300 for Narx. So
yeah, I think it'll grow good. I think this time of year people are still preparing for events, so I think as this year rolls on and more events start popping off, you'll start to see a lot more growth in that.
Well, and again, like I said earlier, there's just so much content that doesn't get covered in a hour-long 1320 video. You know, they're focused on the drag racing part of it. They're focused on cool rollers, and they're focused on trailer burnouts. You know, we get to tell, I mean, a daily story of people's car and their misfortune or their fortune. You know, one of the questions we always ask for event participants is what went wrong, obviously what broke, and then what went right. You know, what did you do right? What did you do wrong? And have come out with some great stories on what people did right.
Yeah, absolutely. So there is one downfall with all of this stuff going on, and I'm going to give you a hard time about it, and I've already given you a hard time, but you are no longer coming to Cletus and Cars Indy with us this year?
Dude, listen, I'll tell you right now, I really struggled for days about it. There's a C10 national show that is part of what Hyde puts on in May, and it's 2 days. And he was like, you can do it. If you'd like to do that event, it'd be great. You can meet the team, get used to the equipment, all that kind of stuff before it's, baptism by fire in the middle of a week-long event that you're tired of, or you're tired from. So sadly, I did take the opportunity to do the pit announcer at the C10 Nationals instead of coming to Cletus and Cars Indy, which really still makes me really, really, really sad. You know what you need to do? I didn't even think about it until just now. Carl with Hidden Motorsports, Klaus the Barbarian, they've got 2 spots or had 2 spots. When we talked, we were all going to get an Airbnb close to each other and stuff like that. They've got 2 spots left in their Airbnb. So you may reach out to him and say, hey man, Mike was a douche and didn't remember that he wasn't going, and send those 2 spots my way. So
I think any one of us in your situation would have done the same thing, though. I mean, this is a awesome opportunity for you and your channel, but as a friend, I'm still going to give you a hard time.
Yeah, and dude, listen, I'll tell you this much: I'll be sad at an event that you guys are at that event.
Because also Casey from Patina Pit Stop isn't going to be able to make it because his daughter is graduating. So
yeah.
And right now we don't even have a chassis to put our burnout engine in. So I don't know.
Dang it, man.
Maybe you just need a sidekick to come along with you and carry around another microphone, and I can just.
Dude, let's go. Don't you threaten me with a good time.
I'm like the mini me. I'll walk around behind you and.
Listen, here's what we do. I'll ask a question. As they're answering it, you ask the same question. Just right over them. They'll be like, "What is happening here?" And I'll act like I don't even see you.
You'll be the A guy. You'll interview all the main people, and I'll be the B guy. I'll just be interviewing the background and the pit crew members, and
you'll be talking to everybody, like animals and everything. Brian Late, who runs Black Seat Originals, and I had discussed a podcast one time about get somebody on and just boom, 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 just not even let them answer and see how long they'll stay on.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
No,
good times.
It'll be fun, and I look forward to that. And hopefully we'll find a car and we'll be able to take something to Cletus and Cars. Otherwise, again, it's always content. So we'll still plan on going and recording at a minimum.
Oh yeah, I'm trying to think. I mean, you know me, I'm always looking out for something that's, because what you need, for folks that are listening to this, if you hadn't told them already, listen, he needs a burnout car, rear wheel drive, something that a V8 can fit in that you can literally throw together that is disposable. So if you have a car like that, dude, tell them, let them know.
Yeah. 815 LSx swaps at gmail.com.
Yeah. Because, I mean, free is a great price on that stuff. They will pay a little bit for something, but listen, if you're going to pay for it, it needs to be really nice. But if it's free, don't care. Do the doors close? Perfect.
Right. Willing to travel.
Yeah, right. Yep. So.
All right. I know you have some stuff going on after this, so we'll get to wrapping this up. Why don't you go ahead, let everybody know where they can find you, your new platforms, give them a shout out, and hopefully we can get some more people following you, and then let them know what they can see coming up on your channel.
Cool. Yeah. So Narx Customs is on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. We've got everything from, I built in public a turbo LS C10 truck. We've got a 300 wheel horsepower MG midget that is absolutely insane. I've got a death cart it's a Grand Marquis 4-seater jungle gym cage, turbo, slow as all get out, but does awesome burnouts and is a lot of fun. It's getting a trans, so that content's coming. You can expect all that everywhere. We post almost probably one post a day across all of those for Narx, and then Drag Drive Repeat. I don't have a website for Narx, but I do have a website for Drag Drive Repeat. So dragdriverepeat.com for, I would say, polished content. And then Drag Driver Pete, all one word, for Facebook and Instagram. I am developing a TikTok account, but the struggle is time and what I'll actually put on there. And what you can expect from Drag Driver Pete is a ton of drag and drive, not just content from the cars itself, but also the backstories with people and blog write-ups and car spotlights, people spotlights, and news and information regarding those events and what to expect.
Awesome. I will
Yeah.
definitely link all of that stuff in the description so everybody can go check that stuff out. Appreciate you coming on again. This is always good time chatting, and we'll talk to you later.
Hey, thanks, man. I really do appreciate you having me on. Let me ramble.
Of course. All right. See ya.
See you.